So I am super excited, Corinne. So everybody, we are here today to talk about Stories of the Awakening. It's going to be our first online event that will also be live with a live audience. And this is an event that's part of Awakening Anonymous, which is a support group that's all about creating a community where we support each other through the sharing of stories, but no dogma, no hierarchy, and no judgments. And I think it's going to be wonderful. I mean, Corinne, you have a really amazing story. You have lots of stories. Of course, we all do during the awakening process, but we're not going to talk about your story today. But what I did want to do is introduce, you to the community so that they can know what you are about today, and because you're kind of on the other side of the awakening process. So your story is going to be about how you've learned to successfully live with Kundalini and how you have become a badass spiritual warrior, which I love. So tell us about what you are doing now on the other side of your awakening, or at least we're never on the other side, right?
No, in what's going on in the world, first of all, you were saying I've become a badass spiritual warrior, but the truth is anybody who's taken their practice off the mat and tries to be in the world is a badass.
Totally.
Because that takes courage. And that's one of the things that, took me a long time to understand that you can do your spiritual practice in your room. You can go meditate. You can go do Vipassana. You can do all of those in a space that's safe. But once you go out into the world, you're really asking for the unknown to come to you. Mm-hmm. And therefore, your spiritual journey is going to have a lot of high points and low points. It's just part of the journey, and to not get down on ourselves about that. And that's really something I want to empower people with, that understanding, because I actually went to a depression at one point, thinking I had failed God because I couldn't stay spiritually connected. And, and I realized those are things that I think are important. So with that being said, one of the things I'm doing, I'm actually hoping for my launch by Saturday, by the actual date, at least we'll have an ebook launch by that day, is my book, A Handbook for Badass Spiritual Warriors. And that actually grew out of, it was a list that I had on my bulletin board. And anytime I would feel down and feel like, oh my God, I forgot what I'm supposed to do. I feel so disconnected. Oh my God, where are my synchronicities? Oh my God, I would look at my list, because I realized, oh, okay, I'm supposed to meditate, but don't try to meditate when I'm super emotional, because that's just going to make it even worse. What kind of meditations do I do? Oh yeah, it's stuff that I knew, but I had to remind myself of. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things I'm up to. And it's the first book I've ever put out there, and it's been really hard. It's it took me forever to get this really short manuscript done. And I couldn't figure out the publishing process, honestly. And so now we're going to go with Amazon. And I'm excited to get it out there. Yeah, I'm excited to get this to people. Because I feel like with some of the lessons I've learned, other people don't have to go through the painful lessons, because now we can talk to each other. Right. Through social media, we have each other, we can support each other. So that's one of the things. Another thing that I do, it's funny, because you're talking about what are all the things that you're up to. And another thing I do more on a daily basis is that I'm a business strategist. Mm-hmm. And someone recently said, no, you're a holistic business strategist. I'm like, well, that's a really interesting way of looking at it.
I like that.
Yeah. And that came out of, because I look at, when I help businesses move forward, I take a look at also, what is basically the CEOs or program director, what are their goals? What's their personality like? How's it going to fit? How's it going to fit with their goals of, I usually work with people who want to make the world a better place, of course, and how does it all fit together in a holistic type of way? And I actually never thought of that terminology. Mm-hmm. And so that's a whole other part of my brain, is the business consulting, where, I do financials and, develop implementation plans. And so I take the visionary aspect and put some of my own visionary things in there, but then actually create plans for people on how to implement things and see if something is working or not, or if it's even a viable idea. We have those things too. So we have that. And then also, actually what I want to back up of what's exciting about the last 3 businesses I've gotten to work with are people who have gone through a spiritual awakening process.
Isn't that funny how that happens?
Yes. And it's really, some of it's really come out of left field because they're very straightforward, seemingly normal businesses, and they're run by people who are very spiritually connected and also very pragmatic. So, I mean, that's really, it's a privilege, really, truly a privilege. So, oh, go ahead.
Well, it's funny because as you're speaking, I mean, this is why I think I connect with you, because I'm a conscious business consultant. I've had this awakening experience. We connect on the Kundalini stuff, but also this is why I have really been developing Awakening Anonymous, and especially Stories of the Awakening, because if we can learn to tell our stories in a very relatable way, it's amazing who we can touch. And I really feel like that's the mission right now. You know, there's so many people waking up right now, and it's difficult to articulate the story of the awakening because we don't have the language. I mean, it's just like, how do you talk about things that are so crazy? And a lot of the language is being either hasn't been created yet, or it's being upgraded to accommodate people like you and me that have feet in both worlds.
Yes.
And feel grounded in both worlds. You know, it's so fascinating.
It really, it is. And another thing, you know, that brings up, it makes me think of the people who I coach. That's another thing. Every now and then I'll have a person who I help with their awakening. And it's a few coaching sessions. It's like maybe 2, maybe 4, and then people are on their own. They have all the information they need. But I find those people that come to me they're amazing human beings. They're people who are like scientists, you know, people who are, one was a female martial arts master. You know, we have people who are one was involved in education in Washington, D.C. And it's like people who are really doing some high level things in the world and who are very pragmatic and very scientific. And this is what I find so fascinating. You know, this awakening process isn't something that is just, you know, happening to people who, it doesn't, you don't have to just, you know, it doesn't happen if you just go to yoga, you know, you don't have to even go to yoga. It can be any reason. It can be any reason at all.
You may not even be on the path. I wasn't even on the path.
Nope.
Like,
exactly.
Boom, you know,
just like that. Yeah. And I actually had another person, one of the very first people that came to me for help. He was a optical scientist. And he, you know, dabbled a little bit, read a couple books by Deepak Chopra. And then, you know, next thing you know, woke up one day and basically that day had an experience where he suddenly became clairvoyant and had a massive amount of energy moving through him. And it took him a couple of years to really come to terms with everything.
Right.
But it just amazes me that it's regular people in the world doing things. And it's heartening because I'm like, oh, we're all starting to really experience the fact that we're far more than just this 3-dimensional body, because those neurons are now firing where we can actually feel and sense, you know, we sense the magnetic field that the heart is creating, you know, that those impulses, the electrical energy, we feel what's happening beyond the body, which is, you know, part of the human evolution process, really. So, that's
very weird.
It feels very strange. Yeah, believe me, I know. It's like, yeah, when I was a kid, I was a teenager when I first started feeling these things. And, I mean, I was definitely the oddball then.
Yeah.
You know, then I was definitely the oddball. So one of the things, actually, I got to back up for a second. I have to share this really interesting book because
do it.
Shed some light. Let me see where, oh gosh, it's in the other room. But I have it on my phone so I can maybe at least show my phone screen. I recently came across a book that explained a lot about who I am. It's actually called Rocket Fuel. Might be really
Oh, I've never heard of it. I love book suggestions. This is what we do in our support meetings.
And this is a business book, actually. And this is fantastic. It talks about how visionaries and integrators work with each other. And then basic tests about where you fall on the spectrum. Now, are you someone with all the creative ideas, et cetera, and you just like learning a bunch and it's really hard to finish projects, but you're always coming up with new stuff? Or are you the person who takes the creative projects and implements them? And then you're able to take something and go, oh, this is going to work, and then do ABC. And what I realized through doing this is I'm one of the rare people that's got both.
I was just going to say that. I can feel you on that. That can be overwhelming.
Really blew my mind, because I did one test and I was like a 90%, and then the other one I was a 70. I'm like, okay, I'm less implementer than visionary, but this explains so much. And that explains one of the reasons why it's like I have an insatiable thirst for learning. That has always been there. I mean, that's why I've gone to school, literally academics, for so many different subjects. I mean, I started out with theoretical physics, went into acting, got a bachelor's degree, cultural anthropology, social psychology. I don't know, there's many, many more things in there, but it's just an insatiable drive that I cannot stop, because if I stop, I feel bored.
Right.
And then I like to synthesize and put everything together. And I think that is one of the reasons that I'm able to look at Kundalini and the process of awakening in a way that bridges both the very mystical with the pragmatic.
Right.
Put those two worlds together and then then read these amazing books. There's another book also in the other room, but it ties more about the scientific and pragmatic with the chakras and energy fields around the chakras, with things that can actually be measured. So that I thought was pretty amazing as well.
But Kundalini is both, and we'll be talking more about that in your story. I could talk about Kundalini all day, because what's most fascinating, and another reason why I'm so passionate about storytelling, is it's everything, and everybody has a different experience. And I think that the people who are sort of on the front lines of awakening are really allowing that to be seen and heard, so that there is no dogma. Because I've experienced a lot of people, when I try to express some of the pain that I've had in my body during different phases, or some of the, darker moments, everybody wants to fix me, or there's judgment. I'm just like, can I just live through the experience, please, and live my process? And that's where I think we really find the beautiful pieces that can help others, is through the challenges.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just understanding like, oh, this is what you can possibly expect. And then also not get caught up in the story as well. And therefore not turn into a victim by not getting caught up in the story and realizing, you know what, I am going to be super emotional for a while. What can I do to support myself? Or, oh yeah, now my back's going to be out for a while. I'll do everything I can and know it's part of the process. But yeah, and I think giving people a safe space to talk about that, so they realize they're not alone, that they're not crazy, and that there's a way through it, so they feel empowered. I think is such an incredible service that your group provides, and it's really, really needed.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see it.
It's all about also bringing forward people like you. I mean, at the beginning of the conversation, you were giving a real useful tip about how you get through those weird moments with your manifestation. I have my vision board right next to me, and it's so simple, but I look at it every day, because otherwise there's so much going on that I lose my focus, or I think I'm not progressing. And that can be so frustrating. I know that my energy should not be divided. So just know it's there, it's being created, and relax. And just sharing things like that, I think, can be very comforting, because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when we're awakening, thinking that we're not quite doing it right. And if we could just look at ourselves like how our higher guidance looks at us, it might be a little bit easier. And I try for us to model that in our support meetings.
Yeah, it's really true. With the whole, I was thinking about the terminology with awakening, and you're right. It's like we're so limited still on how we describe these things. So, and they sound so woo-woo, but actually they're really very physically based. And actually, I'm going to look up the name of the book because it was so insanely valuable for me to read. And I picked it up at the, that talks about this. I picked it up at the California Institute of Human Sciences, which is right here in Encinitas.
Yeah.
And it's one of the books they use as a textbook. And I know I have it in my email because I sent it to somebody. So we're going to find it in a few minutes here before we get off this, because I'd love for people to have this info. But with the awakening, and it does turn out that the meridians in your body, your chakras become hyper activated during this time. And what's interesting is it can happen more than once. So you can go through this process of integration and like, oh yeah, I'm integrated, I'm all good. And then boom, 10 years later, you'll have another expansion, and then you'll be just integrating that again. So it's really interesting because that's happened to me a couple times. And, but now that we're all talking to each other and there's some solid research being done now, at least I know what the heck is going on,
Yes. Yeah. Because and everybody has a different experience. Some people don't really see kind of the blueprint of the biology and things like that.
Yeah.
When I go into meditation, it's just like, there's a biology book that I'm encased in, and I see all the meridians, and wow. It's kind of like you have to experience it to believe it. It's so crazy, but it's very scientific, and all you can do is share the stories, and then, the texts are being created, but they're going to be upgraded because we're being upgraded. And
entirely. Everything's going to change, and, even you were saying, scientifically based, but yet there's also the element of divine and magic in there too, that I sometimes have to even remind myself and go, oh yeah, okay, this isn't just all scientific. Let's not forget to turn things over to a higher power, because it always feels better. And I know I'm guilty of forgetting that. That's why that was on my list to remember. Don't try to muscle through everything,
Oh, that's the biggest challenge right now, I feel, because we can't grind through things anymore. And I feel like we can't do it alone.
No, you're 100%. It's, there was a time last year, my client load was extremely thin, and man, I talk about grinding. I don't know how many jobs I applied for. And did it the old-fashioned way. And then one day I'm like, that's it. I do not know what to do. I give up. And then I did a friend of mine said, do this clearing mantra, etc., this and this. And within 24 hours, my client load was so full, I've had to turn people away. Like this month is literally the first time I have space for a new client. I mean, it was like, and then the people that showed up after doing that mantra were ones who had been through a spiritual awakening process, but they all came from different places that I had no expectation that that's how they would find me. I mean, they found me through different things. So it's really fascinating how sometimes the manifestation will come through something so non-linear.
Right. Well, and these, what you're sharing is so important for, you were probably like this too, but I could always create anything in my career because I was a doer. Yeah. And for me to kind of like sit back and wait for it is, very uncomfortable. And yet it's so easy. You just have to be in alignment and wish for it with love and communicate with the guidance, and then it turns up. But it's just a matter of not having expectations and being aware when an opportunity arises. But it's a whole new way of living for sure. But these are practical things to talk about.
Yeah. And trusting the process. And I realized during this last summer when that was going on, I had some good things that came out of it. Gave me time to write my book. I ended up doing a course. I put a course up on Udemy about how to live with active, not Udemy. I put it on Teachable. Next one will be on Udemy. Put it on Teachable, how to live with active Kundalini. And I did that in conjunction with in support with the Emerging Sciences Foundation. So it's like a portion of my sales go to them.
Mhm.
which also gave me more courage to put things out online, to get my information more out in the world. So because I was like, oh wow, I actually got sales for my course. Wow, I've had like 10 people buy this course. Wow. And now the next thing I'm actually going to be doing this week is making a lighter version of that, putting on Udemy. I'm going to create another course to go with my book in support of that. And I also just did something really nerdy. I've just finished creating an e-commerce store, my very first e-commerce store, because I've always wanted to find one place where you could find positive affirmations to put around my home or office.
Mhm.
Like everything in one place, like wall decals and, like posters and even jewelry. I used to have this nice necklace that said love on it.
Yeah.
And I wanted another one because I lost it.
Positiveaffirmations.com or something,
Actually, it's called lovelifeproducts.com.
Oh, I love that.
So lovelifeproducts.com. It's up, it's live. I just made it live yesterday.
How fun.
But I haven't done any SEO because I need to still do that part of this course. I did a class on Udemy, but I'm like, hey, this course is great. And I see how this is all going to fit together with everything else I'm doing. And this is, I don't know how many people there are in the world who actually want to buy stuff like that, but I thought it was cool. Maybe my next store will be more targeted to an audience that I'm supposed to cater to, but
well,
I really like this
audience.
It's like, I love this stuff. And it's like, I'm going to slowly put more things on there. And I found the little love necklace. And so it's the first sale I made is I sold it to myself.
First customer. I think that that's wonderful. And it's like when you're following something that makes you happy, I've just been blown away by all the things that wouldn't work for me over the last 4 years. No matter how hard I tried because I thought it was the right thing to do, then I just like do whatever serves me and feels good. And it's like, how is this happening? Where it's being so supported by the universe. And it is a process of trust, I have to say. But again, I think the more we can share about it, the greater the collective energy is going to be behind it. And I'm all for that because I'm tired of it.
Entirely. It's funny. When I first learned about that principle, I did this. There was a coach, he used to be really popular about 10 years ago. His name is Matthew Ferry, and he was the first coach I ever, about him?
No, I've heard the name. I haven't followed him.
So awesome. He was the first coach that I ever knew that put business and spirituality together. And I think like one of his courses was called Mental Journey to Millions. And it was all about NLP and like learning how to connect with people, but also like when you're trying to sell something and you're grinding, he's like, you just stop everything you're doing and go do what's fun, and guaranteed you will make the sale you need to do. And I agree. And I was part of one of the groups that they did. They used to have this thing called the Academy of Influence, which was so fun. And it was like a 6 weeks class, and we were all part of this class to like learn how to do that piece better of like letting go and not grinding. Sure enough, like the stuff we were manifesting right and left was insane by just merely doing what was in our joy. And, somebody would go play tennis. Someone would just, go sit at a coffee shop, go read a book. It's like do things that are totally not related, but feel good. And then just talk to people. And not even pitch people, but just talk, whatever. And that was the first time I really got to exercise that principle.
That's really great. I've been wanting to do some manifestation magic as a group in Awakening Anonymous, I know that we have some very powerful creators in there. And I'm like, we just all got together. I might be picking your brain about that a little bit later. Well, I could talk to you all day.
Oh my gosh, I suddenly realized what time it was.
This is what happens. It's so fun. I mean, this is a fun topic for me. On Saturday, so your story, we're going to get together online at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And anybody who attends live will, maybe you will have access to your book on Saturday. Maybe it'll be a couple days later, but they're going to get a free copy, which is really exciting because I know it's jammed full of tips and tools on how to be a spiritual badass. And we love the tips and tools. But then also everybody who attends live is going to get a private Q&A. And I think that that's going to be incredible because you have really lived the experience. And we're going to talk about some crazy stuff on Saturday. I know we are. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Very, very much so.
And so if anybody wants to register, we still have room. I'm not sure if the link came up here, but you can just go to the Facebook page, Awakening Anonymous, and you'll see the event. And of course, I will distribute that link if it's not already up there. And again, it's 10 a.m. on Saturday. And is there anything else that you want to let us know that you're up to or how people can connect with you?
Right now, just through my website, which is wilddivinebliss.org.
Okay.
And really, I think we've basically covered everything that I'm doing these days.
Beautiful.
Which is a lot. It's like, doing some coaching, some business development work, some, I've got my online courses. The book is coming out. It's a lot of stuff, But yeah, but actually I do want to leave you with one thing, which is the name of that book, because I didn't mention it. And I think some people might be wondering what it was. And it's, you can get it on Amazon. It's called Science and the Evolution of Consciousness by Dr. Hiroshi Motoyama.
Oh, that's the founder of CIHS, yeah?
Yes, it is, exactly. Mm-hmm. And this is the one, what I found, that he actually does talk about Kundalini mm-hmm. energy. And it's very heartening to read it. If you're scientifically based, you will love the book. It's very heartening because it's very validating mm-hmm, as well mm-hmm. to go, oh yeah, this is what's going on. Now I understand why I was emotional. It's actually really great. So I wanted to leave that with people.
Perfect. We'll have to, I know you have a lot of resources too to share with people who are experiencing or will soon experience Kundalini. I swear I'm in Wisconsin right now and Mother Earth is really ripping through her Kundalini right now. And I think we're going to be feeling the weather changes even more intensely over the next few years as she is on the ride with us, or we're on the ride with her, I should say.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, thank you. It was really good.
This was so fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love talking to other people who are awakening, and that's pretty much everybody now in my reality. So we will see you on Saturday.
See you on Saturday.
All right. Take care. Bye, everybody.